Welcome to the Get Sellers Calling You podcast for Christian real estate agents, where we help you grow your business with great marketing tips and grow your faith with powerful, radical faith Bible teaching. I'm Beatty Carmichael, and I'm glad you joined us. Today, we're going to be talking about growing your business with some great marketing tips. So, let's get started. Well, hey there again, this is Beatty Carmichael, and this is part 2 on a set of training I've wanted to do for years in front of a whiteboard to share some basic marketing concepts on how do you get more listings. In my last session, I was talking about 2 primary things, or maybe 3. Number 1 is what I call the marketing success equation. And this is where 40% of your results is the list that you target, okay? 40% of your results is the offer that you make, and 20% of your results is the way that you write that offer, what we call marketing copy. And the list is important because I remember years back we had this client. So we offer money-back guarantees with our service. And the guarantee was that we would help you get X number of listings. Well, this lady got upset because she did not get that number of listings. She was targeting a past clients and sphere of influence list. She only had 1 listing that came on the market from one of her past clients, and they went with a different agent. Okay, so that kind of gives you an idea of who this agent was. But she got upset because we wouldn't give her money back. I said, well, the qualification right here in the contract is that you have to have a X% turnover rate, like a 5% or 4%, whatever it was. And she had a 1% turnover rate. And I was helping her understand there's no way you can guarantee sales if your list has no sales. Right? And so this is the idea with in our first session, that 40% of your results comes from the list that you market to, because that list has to have activity. That list not only has to have activity, but you can have 2 lists. Watch this. This is real interesting. We've seen this. So we've had 2 farms, so let's just call this a Geofarm, right? And they're both 300 homes. And this one over here, the same marketing gets 10% of all the listings coming out of there to our client, and the other 300 home farm gets 0%. So think about this. They both have the same turnover rate. They're both generating, let's say, 15 sales a year, okay? They both are similar dynamics in terms of economics and things of that sort. They both have the same number of agents that are selling all those homes, so it's not like one is a dominant area and one is not. But the difference is that one of those farms, the same marketing produces great results, and in the other farm, the identical marketing produces no results. What's the difference? This is what I'm talking about, your list. The list that you target is most important, and I can share this later if you have interest. But there's some things that go on within the list that we call a trusting factor that is crucial to get the highest results. And it took us a long time to figure this out. But there's dynamics that happen within a farm that if you can identify those dynamics up front, you can tell if that farm's going to be a good farm to be marketing to or a really tough farm to be marketing to. And this happens with any type of list. So that was the first thing that we covered last time. The second thing we covered last time, let me just take a real quick break for our audio listeners. I am in front of a whiteboard. So if it sounds like I'm writing something or trying to point to something on a whiteboard, it's because I am. And I would encourage you to come back to our website, the Get Sellers Calling You site, and watch the video on this if you want to see the diagrams. I want to try to articulate everything so that you can hear it and grab just as much from it as possible. So the marketing success equation was the first thing that we talked about on the last session. The next thing that we talked about is this concept of met versus not met. Okay? And that if you have met that homeowner, met that prospect that is thinking about selling, or better described, is if they have met you, then they are 8 to 10 times more likely to do business with you. And we saw this in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book when they said out of all the leads that you can work with, there's only 2 categories that we find as any significance. They've met you or they haven't met you. And what we found is that this met list is really the key to driving the most business. This is why for most agents, their past clients and sphere of influence list is always the most responsive because they already know you, they've met you, they like you, they trust you. But the question is, how can you cause a not met list, let's call it a geographic farm, how can you convert a not met list into a met list without taking all day to go door knock for an entire month? And this is where I shared at the end of the last session this concept we've developed called video-infused postcards, okay? Video-infused postcards. And a video-infused postcard is exactly what it sounds like. We infuse a video into the postcard. So now, as you're marketing to that geographic farm, someone gets a postcard mail piece, they can actually watch your video, okay? Right there on the kitchen table or wherever they are. And it's a cool thing. I'm not going to talk about this, but if you do have interest, then you can go to our website, agentdominator.com/VIP. VIP, that stands for Video Infused Postcard. agentdominator.com/VIP. You can learn more information about that over there. What I want to do on this session is wrap up on a couple of really critical marketing concepts that drive results, okay? There are a lot of marketing concepts that are out there. There are only about 4 that are the most significant, that if you learn them and master them, you will have a much higher success rate in your marketing. These are the things that we do with all of the things that we do with our clients. So the next one I want to talk about, the next concept, is, I'm going to call it, is the marketing funnel formula, okay? The marketing funnel formula. Most of you probably know what a marketing funnel is. Basically, the idea is this. You have a funnel, right? It's wide at the top, comes down, gets narrow at the bottom, okay? And the idea with a marketing funnel is you market to a large group of people and you start to put them into the mouth of the funnel, and through your marketing content that you're doing, it starts to bring them down through the funnel until they come out the bottom as your client, okay? So all good marketing follows this concept of the marketing funnel formula. The question is, how do you do it? What are the components of this marketing funnel formula, and how do you apply them well? This is actually the number one key to direct response marketing, because the marketing funnel formula is all about direct response marketing. It's used in any marketing, but really what you're trying to do, you're trying to go after a large group of people that you have no idea if they're thinking about selling their home or not, and narrow them down and pop them out at the bottom as your client where you're listing their home, okay? So there are 4 steps to this marketing funnel formula. The first one is the interrupt. Then it's engage. Then you have educate. And then you have offer. Okay? Now this offer here is slightly different than the offer with the marketing success equation, where 40% of your success rate is the offer that you make. They're similar, but this offer here is actually a call to action, a CTA offer. All of this, the interrupt, engage, educate, and offer, all of this is the offer that you make to your prospect to get them to respond, okay? So I don't want to confuse the term offer. All of this ties into the main thrust for sellers. How do they get the most money, right? But you bring them down through this formula of interrupt, engage, educate, offer, so that when they get down here to the offer, which is the call to action, that actually now brings them into being your client or raising their hand that they're thinking about selling so that you can then engage with them. So let me walk you through how each of these works. So the first one is interrupt. Here's the idea. You have a homeowner and they have a busy life. And by the way, this marketing funnel formula works in any type of marketing. I'm going to apply it to a postcard because that's what we have found most effective for identifying sellers. But you can apply this in an email, you can do it in a brochure, you can do it in a pay-per-click ad, you can do it in any type of thing. But the first step is the interrupt, and here's the idea. For that homeowner thinking about selling, or that geographic farm that you might be marketing to, those homeowners are getting their mail and they're sorting the mail like this. They look at it and go trash, 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 keep, trash, trash, keep, right? You do the same thing. And then they throw all the trash away and they don't even look at it. They don't even give it any glimpse other than a quick decision as they're flipping through the mail. So if you do not interrupt their attention and start to put something in front of their face that they want to know, then you will lose right off the bat. We found when we're doing postcard mailing that unless you're doing it right, only 20%, 1 out of 5 people will even flip a postcard over. Think about that. Most people put most of the content on the other side of the postcard than the address side, and 80% of the people never even get there. Why? They don't know why to turn it over. And when you have a seller that doesn't know why to turn it over, you just lost a listing. So the most important thing is this interrupt. Generally speaking, the interrupt is also a function of the headline. Not all the time. It depends on what you're doing. Our postcards are designed a little bit different because we've taken more of a cutting-edge scientific approach with it. It ties into a headline, but the headline is going to be the most important part. That's the interrupt. So let me just give you an idea. Here's a good headline that always works in identifying seller. If you're thinking about selling your home, read this immediately. Okay? That's an interrupt. Why? Because the whole purpose is to interrupt them from whatever they're doing and talk about something that they are interested in. If they're thinking about selling their home, what that does is it's like a radar that says, their radar turns on, we call it the reticular activator, and says, this looks like something I might be interested in. So you interrupt them, and now rather than just quickly throwing it away, they stop for a moment. And that moment that they stop, they're now going to make a decision. Do I keep it or do I throw it away? And that's now the function of engage. Engagement is usually called a subheadline. The purpose of the headline is to interrupt them, and the purpose of the subheadline is to begin to engage them. Okay? So let me just give you an idea. Let's go back with our basic. The interrupt is, if you're thinking about selling your home, read this immediately. Maybe engagement, let's call it, let's just use a typical home value type of approach, okay? Knowing how much you can get for your home will determine what type of home you buy next. ... Okay? So the ... that ellipsis tells them to continue reading. So now what I've done is I've interrupted them. I'm now engaging them with the offer of finding out what your home may be worth. Then I'm going to educate them. Okay, and the education is the main marketing copy. If you're doing a direct response, it's very short. It's not paragraphs. It's maybe 2 or 3 sentences depending on what you're doing. And so if we're taking this home value approach, right? The headline, if you're thinking about selling your home, read this immediately. The subheadline, knowing what your home could sell for in today's market can help you determine what type of home you can buy. ... And then maybe the marketing copy says something along the lines of, it's hard to find out what your home is worth in this crazy market. Prices have been changing, if it's a seller's market or if it's a buyer's market, depending on what the market condition is. So you give them a little bit of teaser copy that says, basically, but I've made it really easy for you to find out what your home is worth. Scan the code right now and learn what your home could sell for today. So the scan the code right now is the offer. And it's an offer to do a call to action, which gets them now to respond. And from that response, you can then take action. This is the general flow, okay? But all marketing is going to use the interrupt, engage, educate, and offer. And if you just remember that simple formula, you can actually start to write really good marketing for your own self to whether it's a flyer, if you're putting out a flyer or you're doing a mailing once a year, or you're putting out an email, anything like that. The whole approach is always an interrupt, engage, educate, offer. It's that funnel that brings them down, grabs their attention, and brings them down where you want it to be. And then the final marketing concept I want to share with you is called outside perception versus inside reality. Outside perception versus inside reality. There was a book years back, 1980s, called Positioning. And in this book, it talked about how consumers make buying decisions. So you have this consumer here. For my audio listeners, I've just drawn up a stick man. And in his brain, he can only remember statistically between 2 or 3 brands. Okay? I want you to think about the significance of this. This consumer is a homeowner who's thinking about selling their home. If you were to ask them to list the agents that you're thinking of, they're only going to list 2 or 3 agents. And there may be, like where I live, there's at least 100 agents that sell in this area. But I don't think I could list more than maybe 3 myself. Maybe only 2. Jana, Karen, I think her name is, probably only 2, okay? And one other guy, a guy named Mike, okay? Because what happens is they just get crowded out. Think about toothpaste, for example. If I were to ask you right now, think about toothpaste and list all the brands of toothpaste that come to mind. You'll probably list 2 or 3. There may be hundreds of brands on the market. There are actually thousands of them. But you're only aware of those 2 or 3. And I guarantee you, when your toothpaste runs out, the one that you're going to buy is going to be on that list of 2 or 3. And the same thing happens with the seller. When they think about selling a home, the agents that they're going to call are those agents that's in this 2 or 3 list. This same concept of positioning, if you've read the book Millionaire Real Estate Agent, this is what Gary calls mindshare dominance. Okay, it's the idea that you have this farm, this list of homeowners that you're marketing to, and who is the dominant agent in their mind. Because whoever is the dominant agent in their mind becomes the dominant agent on the ground. Whoever they think of first is the one that's likely going to get the listing. So the question is, how do you get them thinking of you? How do you move your brand from maybe number 10 or number 11, which means they don't even know you, and move it to the number 1 spot, which means you'll get the listing whenever they come on the market? One of my friends does this so expertly. He was saying, Beatty, I've got clients coming to me that they're signing a listing contract with me a year in advance and 6 months in advance because they know that I can do the best job for them, and they're just going to lock it on down and use me to guide them through the process to get their home ready so that in a year when they're going to sell, it's ready to sell. That is pretty powerful when you can become the number 1 brand in their mind. So the way that you do this is this concept known as outside perception versus inside reality. And on my last session, I think I shared about when we sold our house. About 5 years ago, we became empty nesters, so we tripled the size of our home, right? Why be normal? And I called in different agents, and I interviewed 3 agents, and they're all good agents. And I said, why should I hire you over anyone else? And none of them could give me a good answer. What I was looking for is, what is your inside reality? They didn't have a clue. And if you don't have a clue what your inside reality is, why someone should choose you over someone else, you'll never be in that number 1 spot. Okay? So if you want to get the mindshare dominance of your homeowners that you're marketing to, you've got to understand this concept of outside perception versus inside reality. Once you implement this well, you will have more business than you can ever imagine, and it'll be year over year over year over year because you have built your brand to where they know why they should choose you. So here's I just gave you a hint. The big hint is the question, why? Why you over someone else? So let's talk about this for a moment. The outside perception. Let's talk about outside perception first because this is the most important thing. Homeowners choose you not because of who you are, but because of who they perceive you are. So their outside perception of you determines whether or not you're going to get the listing. Okay? So the outside perception for most homeowners is that all agents are identically the same. That all they do is stick a sign in the yard, list their home in the MLS, and just sit back and wait for someone else to bring a buyer. They don't believe that there's any difference between one agent and another. In fact, when I interviewed those 3 agents, they didn't believe there was any difference between them and anyone else that they could articulate. They knew instinctively that they were probably better than a lot of these others, but they couldn't articulate, and that's the key. That's the issue. Because in my mind as the seller, why should I choose one agent over another? I don't know who to choose. By the way, all agents are all the same. They don't do anything different. So it really doesn't matter which agent I choose because since they're all the same, my home is going to sell at the same price in the same amount of time with one agent versus another. That's the perception. Now, if you're a good agent, you know that's a wrong perception. But that homeowner doesn't understand it. So it's your job to educate that homeowner on what makes you different. What makes you different is your inside reality. There's a lot that goes into this. The key element here is this simple word called educate. When you can educate them on what you do to help prepare a home, to price it, to present it, in photographs and in videos, to promote it, all those places that you get promotion out to. When you can start to articulate those 4 areas in what you do that causes your homes to sell at a higher sales price than the typical agent, then what happens is that education starts to shift that homeowner's perception to who you are on the inside. When that perception changes, then you go from number 10 or number 11 in their mind all the way up to eventually number 1. So it's all about education. A simple way to understand this, if you take your listing presentation, now most good agents have a good listing presentation. Probably a PowerPoint, you got 20 slides. Each slide covers a different thing that you do or a different reason they should choose you. So what you're actually doing, you're selling that homeowner on the listing appointment why they should choose you over anyone else. So now think about that listing presentation and spin it out into a marketing piece and use those same type of content slides as your marketing that goes into the general marketplace. Now you're educating them on what you do and on your inside reality that now changes their outside perception. That's kind of a very simplistic way of looking at this. We do it similarly, but a whole lot different because we put a little bit more thought into it, understanding what are the key processes. But if you look at your process and start to analyze it of what you do, it's not so much what you do different. It's the fact that you articulate what you do. That's what sets you apart from other agents. And once you can set yourself apart, you start to get more business coming through. To the degree, okay, so I shared, I think on my last session, one of our clients years back named Roman, and down in South Florida, and one of the listings he got from this large farm area was a listing that was already on the market, but both the agent and the homeowner were getting his marketing pieces. And they were so effective in educating them on how good he was and what he did to get top dollar that both the agent and the homeowner decided that he could probably sell the homeowner's home better than the agent, so the agent gave him the listing. That is outside perception becoming your inside reality. So remember that perception is everything, and as long as you can shift their perception to who you really are, you'll start to get more of that business. I've got some teaching on this also on our website, getsellerscallingyou.com. I think if you simply put in outside perception and dial that in, you'll probably get some decent additional training on that if you have desire for that. Let me wrap up one more thing. I'm going to do an unabashed plug with what we do. We have a program we call our VIP program. VIP simply stands for, as I mentioned earlier, Video Infused Postcards. Okay, Video Infused Postcards. The whole idea with the Video Infused Postcards is taking all of these marketing concepts from the marketing success equation to the met versus not met. to the outside perception versus inside reality, to the marketing funnel formula, and several others, and putting them all together into a single package that becomes fully automated. A little bit of effort getting it up and running, a week or two of just a little back and forth some stuff with us, and then everything's locked down, fully automated. And with this program, we're implementing all these things I've been sharing with you so that you can incrementally increase the production of new listings coming out of any list that you market to, and just kind of put that marketing almost on autopilot, okay? And if you have interest with that, simply go to our website, agentdominator.com/VIP, and you can get some more on that. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please do two things. Number one, please share this on social media so other people can enjoy it. And number two, if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please subscribe to either our YouTube channel or our podcast audio channel that you'll find on any audio player with your mobile phone. And then that way you won't miss another episode. Also, if you want help generating listings, please visit our website at agentdominator.com, where we guarantee them or give your money back. Thanks again for listening to the Get Sellers Calling You podcast, and have a very blessed day.